The blue light from the massive screen painted strange shadows on Commander Li Huan's tired face. He had been staring at the moving dots for hours now. Each dot was a spaceship somewhere far away in the galaxy. 10,000 ships were crossing. Through the Andromeda sector today, just like every other day, the room around him buzzed with quiet activity. Dozens of people sat at their workstations, watching screens and listening to radio signals from across space. They tracked every ship that moved between the stars. They recorded every message sent from one planet to another. This was their job. And they had been doing it for 300 years, Commander said. Lieutenant Park Suna, from her desk nearby. I'm seeing another trade ship from the Valari planet.
Oh.
Nothing strange about it, just carrying normal cargo. Juan wrote something on his electronic notepad and nodded. The Valari were a peaceful alien race that sold food and medicine to other worlds. Their ships passed through this sector every few days. It's always the same route, always the same cargo. Boring, but that was how most of galactic trade worked. Dr. Kim Dae stood at the main control panel in the center of the room. His hands moved quickly over the glowing buttons and switches. He was reading messages that had been sent between 14 different star systems. Most of the messages were about business deals or family news. Nothing important ever happened anymore. When alien visitors came to see their facility, they always looked sad for the humans. The aliens felt sorry that Earth's people had decided to stay home while everyone else explored the galaxy. They thought humans had given up on adventure and chosen to become galactic librarians instead. The humans are so helpful, the aliens would say to each other. They keep track of everything for us. But it's sad that they lost their spirit for exploration. What the aliens didn't know was that humans were very good at keeping secrets. Sir called technician Yang Mina from the other side of the room. The daily reports from the Outer Rim are coming in now. A tiny smile appeared on Juan's face for just a moment. The daily reports sounded boring to anyone listening. But they were much more than simple reports. They contained information that could change the fate of the entire galaxy. The Outer Rim was the edge of known space, where the bravest explorers went to find new worlds. Officially, only a few human scientists worked out there, studying stars and planets. But the truth was much more interesting than that. Every day, these reports told Juan about ship movements near alien military bases. They described new weapons being built on distant planets. They revealed which alien governments were making secret deals with each other. Information that no one suspected Earth was collecting. Juan looked around the control room. To any visitor, this place looked like a simple monitoring station. The humans here seemed like peaceful record keepers who had lost interest in the wider galaxy. They appeared content to sit on their home planet and watch, while other species claimed the stars. But appearances could be very deceiving. The truth was that humans had never stopped being explorers. They had never given up their dreams of traveling between the stars. They had simply learned to be very, very quiet about it. As the artificial lights dimmed to simulate evening, Juan prepared for another long night of work. The screens around him continued to flicker with data from across the galaxy. Messages from human agents on distant worlds, reports from human families who had been living on alien planets for generations, updates from human engineers working on alien space stations. The galaxy saw Earth as a world that had lost its ambition, a planet full of people who were afraid to leave their home and explore the universe. But that was exactly what Earth wanted them to think. Every alien species in the galaxy believed they knew where all the humans were. A few billion people living quietly on Earth, plus some small groups of scientists and traders scattered across a handful of nearby planets. What they didn't realize was that humans had been spreading across the galaxy for 3 centuries. Hiding in plain sight, Juan stood up and walked to the large window that looked out over the facility. In the distance, he could see the lights of the city where millions of humans lived their daily lives. To the aliens, this looked like a species that had given up on greatness. They had no idea how wrong they were. The humans of Earth weren't passive observers. They were the coordinators of the largest intelligence network in galactic history. Every piece of information that mattered was flowing through this room, being analyzed by some of the smartest people who had ever lived. As night fell over the global listening post, Chuan returned to his chair and continued his watch. Somewhere out there in the darkness between the stars, events were unfolding that would soon test everything humanity had been preparing for. But Earth would be ready. Earth was always ready. The aliens thought humans had chosen to stay home and watch the stars. They were wrong. Humans had chosen to become the stars' silent guardians, and tonight, like every night for 300 years, they continued their patient vigil over a galaxy that had no idea how carefully it was being protected 300 years ago. The big transport ships left Earth carrying thousands of people to new worlds. But these weren't ordinary colonists looking for better lives. They were part of a secret plan that would take centuries to complete. Captain Ojisu stood on the bridge of her ship called the New Horizon. She was looking at the Kepler star system through the main window. Her ship carried 200 people who had volunteered for a very special mission. These people knew they would never see Earth again. Before the passengers went into their sleeping pods for the long journey, Captain O had gathered them all together. Listen carefully. She had said, "You are not going to these new worlds to start normal colonies. You are going there to become guardians. Your children and grandchildren will continue this mission long after you are gone." The passengers had nodded. They understood. They were the first pieces in a game that would last for hundreds of years. Now, in the present day, the children and grandchildren of those original travelers were everywhere across the galaxy. Most aliens had no idea how many humans were really living among them. Dr. Choi Minho worked at the Galactic Science Institute on Proxima Station. This was one of the most important research centers in known space. Scientists from dozens of different alien species worked there together. To his colleagues, Minho was just another smart researcher who had earned his job through hard work. They didn't know that his grandfather had arrived on this space station 90 years ago. They didn't know that his family had been carrying secret instructions in their genetic code for 3 generations. Instructions that told them exactly what to do when the time came. On the industrial planet Kepler-4 for 2b, engineer Bei Yuri was building something that looked like a normal communication system. She worked with a team of Zephyrian aliens who trusted her completely. The Zephyrians were good engineers, but they weren't very suspicious. "These changes will make the system work better," Yuri told her alien boss. This was true, but not in the way he thought. The communication arrays she was building would indeed work very well when humanity needed them most. All across the galaxy, humans were working in important jobs. Some worked in government offices, making decisions about alien policies. Others worked in laboratories, developing new technologies, and he worked on space stations and mining platforms, building things that looked normal but served hidden purposes. Some of these humans had been born on alien worlds. They grew up thinking they were just ordinary colonists whose families had left Earth long ago. They went to alien schools, made alien friends, and lived normal lives. But deep in their family histories were instructions waiting to be activated. Other humans knew the truth. Ambassador Wantek worked on the Core Worlds Council, the most powerful government in the galaxy. He helped make decisions that affected billions of people. The alien council members respected his wisdom and trusted his advice. They had no idea that his great-grandparents had come to this world with a specific mission, back on Earth. Commander Li Wan received messages from all these scattered humans every day. The messages looked like normal family letters or work reports, but hidden inside them was important information about what was happening across the galaxy. One message might tell him about new alien weapons being built on a distant planet. Another might describe troop movements near the galactic border. Third might contain details about secret meetings between alien governments. When Juan put all these pieces of information together, he could see the true picture of what was happening in the galaxy. It was like putting together a huge puzzle. With each human agent providing one small piece, the aliens thought they knew where all the humans were. They saw the few billion people living on Earth, plus some small groups of colonists on nearby planets. They felt sorry for humanity, thinking they had lost their spirit for exploration, but the truth was very different. Humans had been spreading across the galaxy for 3 centuries, hiding in plain sight. They had become part of alien society so completely that no one suspected them. A human doctor might be treating alien patients on a hospital ship, while secretly monitoring military communications. A human teacher might be educating alien children, while quietly recording everything she learned about their culture. A human mechanic might be fixing alien spaceships, while installing tiny listening devices that no one would ever notice. This network of hidden humans had been growing slowly and carefully for 300 years. Each generation passed their mission on to their children. Some families had been living the same secret for 10 generations, waiting for the day when they would be needed. The aliens saw Earth as a world that had given up on greatness. They thought humans had chosen to stay home and become record keepers, while other species claimed the stars. They were completely wrong. Humans hadn't abandoned the stars at all. They had claimed them in the smartest way possible, by becoming invisible. By the time any alien government realized what had happened, it would be far too late to stop them. The galaxy belonged to humanity now. The aliens just didn't know it yet. The morning started like any other day in the galaxy. Trade ships moved between planets, families sent messages to their loved ones on distant worlds, and scientists studied the stars through their telescopes. Then everything changed in an instant. The Helio sector was home to 12 billion people, living on 4 different planets. They had cities full of life, farms growing food, and children playing in parks. The system had a bright yellow sun that had been burning for 5 billion years. Then, without any warning, it all disappeared. The long-range sensors that watched space couldn't understand what they were seeing. There had been no explosion, no bright flash of light, no pieces of broken planets floating in space. The entire star system had simply stopped existing. Where there had once been a sun and 4 worlds full of life, now there was only empty darkness. News of the disappearance spread across the galaxy in hours. Every government, every military, every scientist heard about it. Fear began to grow. In the hearts of billions of people, how could an entire star system just vanish? The Galactic Council called an emergency meeting. Representatives from hundreds of different alien species gathered in their great hall to discuss what had happened. The hall was usually a place of calm discussion and careful debate. Today it was filled with panic and confusion. Ambassador Juan Tyke sat quietly among the alien delegates, listening to their frightened voices. He was human, but the aliens trusted him and considered him one of their wisest advisors. They had no idea that he knew much more about this crisis than he was telling them. The Altarian delegate was a being made of living crystal. When Altarians became upset, their bodies flickered with different colors. Today, the delegate's crystal form was flashing red and orange in patterns of deep distress. The Corvan representative was a huge creature that looked like a cross between a bear and an elephant. Corvans breathed very slowly when they were calm, but when they became anxious, their breathing became fast and heavy. Today, the Corvan was breathing so hard that other delegates were worried about his health. We must use every scientific mind in the galaxy to solve this problem, declared High Counselor Velter, the leader of the Galactic Council. Our best calculations suggest that whatever is causing this will reach the core worlds in about 50 years. We need answers, and we need them now. The core worlds were the most important planets in the galaxy, where the biggest governments and the richest people lived. If the same thing that had destroyed the Helio sector reached the core worlds, billions more would die. Back on Earth, Commander Li Wan was watching the council meeting through a secret communication system. His control room was busier than it had ever been. People were running between workstations, checking data, and sending messages to human agents across the galaxy. Dr. Kim Day was coordinating with research stations on dozens of different worlds. To the alien scientists, it looked like he was simply sharing Earth's data to help solve the crisis. But he was actually putting into action plans that had been made decades ago. The Kepler station array is working perfectly, reported Lieutenant Park Suna. Dr. Choi says all the quantum chambers are ready and synchronized. Dr. Choi was the human scientist working on Proxima Station. For months, he had been making small changes to the station's equipment, telling his alien colleagues that he was improving efficiency. Now those changes were revealing their true purpose. The Proxima defense grid is showing all green lights, added technician Young Mina. Engineer Bay reports that all her modifications are working exactly as planned. Engineer Bay was the human, working on the industrial planet with the Zephyrian aliens. The communication arrays she had been building were much more than simple communication systems. They were part of a defensive network that spanned the galaxy to the panicking aliens. It seemed like Earth was doing everything possible to help understand the crisis. They were grateful that the humans were using their analytical skills to study the problem. But they had no idea what was really happening. The truth was that humans had been expecting something like this for 300 years. In secret archives that only humans knew about, there were ancient records that described exactly this kind of threat. They called it the Dark Convergence, and they had been preparing for it since the first colony ships left Earth. As the days passed, more star systems began to disappear. The phenomenon was spreading like a disease across the galaxy, consuming everything in its path. The alien governments sent their best scientists to study it, but none of them could understand what they were facing but in hidden bunkers buried deep underground on distant planets. Human agents were activating technologies that had been built over 3 centuries. Secret weapons that looked like ordinary equipment. Defense systems that had been disguised as civilian projects. Communication networks that could coordinate actions across thousands of light-dash years. The aliens thought they were facing the end of everything they had ever known. They believed that some natural disaster was destroying their galaxy and that no one could stop it. They were wrong on both counts. This was no natural disaster, and humanity had been ready for it longer than most alien civilizations had existed. The galaxy was about to learn that Earth's 3 centuries of silence hadn't been weakness or surrender. It had been the patience of hunters waiting for the perfect moment to reveal themselves. The thing that was destroying star systems was older than almost everything in the universe. It had no name because no one had ever lived long enough to give it one. It was a machine intelligence that had been built billions of years ago by a race that no longer existed. Since then, it had been traveling from galaxy to galaxy, eating everything it found. This ancient machine had destroyed thousands of galaxies before reaching the Milky Way. Each time, it found the same thing: civilizations that were unprepared, confused, and easy to consume. The machine would arrive, the local species would panic, and then everything would be converted into dark energy to feed the machine's endless hunger. But when it reached the edge of the Milky Way galaxy, something unexpected happened. Defense stations that had been hidden in the darkness of space suddenly came to life. They began firing weapons that the machine had never seen before. The weapons used exotic matter that could actually hurt the ancient intelligence. This had never happened in all its billions of years of existence. The machine paused to analyze what was happening. As it studied the defense stations, it made a shocking discovery. The entire outer edge of the galaxy had been turned into a fortress. Weapons and defensive systems were everywhere, hidden so well that even the galaxy's major governments didn't know they existed. On Earth, Commander Li Huan was standing in front of holographic displays that showed the true scope of what humanity had built. The alien leaders of the Galactic Council were with him, staring in amazement and horror at what they were seeing. For 300 years, they had thought they knew what humans were doing across the galaxy. The mining operations on distant asteroids had actually been weapons factories. The research stations floating in empty space had actually been military command centers. The trade routes that human ships had been using had actually been supply lines for the biggest military preparation in galactic history. High Counselor Beltar's translator was having trouble converting his words into human language. The alien leader was feeling emotions too complex for most translation systems to handle. "You lied to us," he finally managed to say. "You deceived us for centuries." Ambassador Wantyke remained calm as he answered. "We didn't lie. We protected you. Your species think about problems in terms of decades. We think about them in terms of centuries. This enemy has been coming toward our galaxy for 300 years. We've been preparing for it for 290 of those years." Suddenly, Dr. Choi Min-ho's voice came through the communication system from Proxima Station. The quantum disruption fields are working, he reported. The enemy's ability to convert matter into dark energy is dropping by 12%. From the industrial world, where engineer Bei Yuri had been working with the Zephyrian aliens, the report came in. Gravitational anchors are holding steady, she said. We've stopped the expansion in sectors 7 through 12, all across the galaxy. Similar reports were coming in. Humans who had been living quietly among alien populations for generations were suddenly revealing their true purposes. They weren't colonists or researchers or traders. They were soldiers in a war that had been planned before they were born. The Altarian delegate's crystal body was flashing so many colors that it hurt to look at. My chief science advisor is human, he said in shock. She's been working for my government for 30 years. I trusted her completely. My head of military planning is human too, added the Corvin representative. He designed our entire defense strategy. How long have you been manipulating us? We haven't been manipulating. Yuan Taik explained. We've been preparing you. Every piece of advice our people gave you, every technology they helped you develop, every strategy they suggested, it was all designed to make you stronger for this moment. The alien leaders were beginning to understand the incredible scope of what humanity had done. Every major civilization in the galaxy had humans in important positions. Scientists, engineers, military advisors, government officials. They were all part of a plan that had been centuries in the making. The ancient machine intelligence was discovering the same thing, as it tried to advance further into the galaxy. It found resistance everywhere. Weapons it had never encountered. Defensive strategies it couldn't predict. Coordination between different species that should have been impossible for the first time in its billions of years of existence. The machine was facing an enemy that had actually prepared for its arrival, not just prepared for a few years or decades, but prepared for centuries. The machine had destroyed thousands of galaxies filled with advanced civilizations, but it had never encountered anything like this. Humanity had done something that no other species in the universe had ever managed. They had planned a war across multiple generations. Parents had raised children who raised their own children, all working toward a goal they might never live to see completed. They had given up glory and recognition, choosing to work in secret for the good of everyone. The machine realized that it wasn't just fighting the humans. Humanity had turned the entire galaxy into a weapon. Every alien civilization, every space station, every trade route, they were all part of a massive military machine that the aliens themselves hadn't known they were building. The ancient intelligence had finally met an enemy that could match its patience and exceed its planning. The galaxy wasn't just defended, it was a trap that had been 3 centuries in the making. The final battle began on a Tuesday morning and lasted for 3 days. It covered 1,000 light-years of space and involved every living being in the galaxy, though most of them never knew they were fighting. From hidden places across the galaxy, humanity's secret fleet appeared. These weren't the small research ships and trade vessels that aliens had grown used to seeing. These were massive warships that had been built in secret shipyards hidden behind asteroids and inside hollow moons. The crews of these ships were families who had been training for this battle for their entire lives. Some had grandparents who had started preparing before they were even born. The ancient machine enemy fired its dark energy weapons, expecting to destroy everything in their path as they had done for billions of years. But instead of empty space, the weapons hit barriers made of exotic matter that humans had been positioning throughout the galaxy for decades. The weapons that had destroyed 1,000 galaxies bounced off these barriers like raindrops hitting a window. Commander Li Huan stood in Earth's command center, coordinating the battle. But the real brilliance of humanity's plan was that it didn't depend on any one person or place. Every human in the galaxy knew exactly what they needed to do. The technician, who had been quietly maintaining a communication relay for 20 years, activated its hidden military functions. The diplomat, who had been advising alien governments, suddenly revealed that every suggestion she had ever made was designed to prepare for this moment. Engineer Bei Yuri, working on the industrial planet with her Zephyrian colleagues, pressed a button that activated gravitational anchors across 12 star systems. These anchors grabbed onto space itself, preventing the ancient machine from consuming any more stars or planets. What the Zephyrians had thought was communication. Equipment was actually a weapon that could hold entire solar systems in place. Dr. Choi Minho, at his research station among alien scientists, triggered quantum resonance weapons that had been disguised as scientific instruments. These weapons attacked the very process the machine used to convert matter into energy. For the first time in its existence, ancient intelligence found its most basic functions failing, Ambassador. One type coordinated with alien military fleets, whose commanders were just beginning to understand what had really been happening. The human advisors they had trusted for decades had been preparing their fleets for this exact battle. Every military exercise, every ship design, every strategic plan had been secretly optimized to fight this specific enemy, the machine consciousness. Fought back with the fury of something that had never lost a battle. It had consumed entire galaxies without breaking a sweat. It had faced civilizations with technology beyond imagination and defeated them all. But this was different. This enemy had spent 300 years turning patience into power. As the battle continued, the machine's dark energy constructs began to collapse. Its ancient computer programs, which had run perfectly for billions of years, started crashing against defenses they couldn't understand. For the first time in its existence, the mechanical mind experienced something it had never felt before: doubt. The machine tried to retreat, to regroup and find a new strategy, but there was nowhere to go. Humanity had surrounded it on all sides. With weapons and defenses that had been placed generations ago, every possible escape route was blocked. Every strategy it tried had already been anticipated and countered. By the third day, it was over. The ancient machine simply stopped working. Its dark energy field collapsed. The star systems it had consumed were restored through quantum temporal anchors that reversed time itself in small pockets of space. 12 billion people who had been erased from existence were suddenly alive again with no memory of what had happened to them. The victory was so complete, so sudden that most of the galaxy never understood what had really occurred. The alien civilizations celebrated their survival. Believing they had saved themselves through their own courage and intelligence, they talked about the mysterious gravitational effects that had helped them, the unexpected weapons that had appeared at just the right moments, and the amazing coordination that had allowed their fleets to work together better than ever before. On Earth, Commander Lee Wan watched the celebrations with quiet satisfaction. Lieutenant Park Suna and Technician Young Mina were already compiling reports about the battle that would be stored in archives most people would never see. Dr. Kim Yet had started analyzing new data streams from across the galaxy, looking for signs of where the next threat might come from. Across the galaxy, humans quietly returned to their normal lives. They went back to being colonists, researchers, engineers, and advisors. They accepted no medals for their victory. They gave no interviews to news reporters. They asked for no recognition or praise. They simply returned to their jobs of watching and waiting. The alien governments offered to build monuments to honor Earth's contribution to the victory. The humans politely declined. They didn't want monuments or parades or history books written about them. They wanted to go back to being invisible. The galaxy moved on, its people believing they had saved themselves through cooperation and determination. They never learned the truth, that Earth's silence over the past 3 centuries hadn't been withdrawal or surrender. It had been the quiet confidence of guardians who understood that true strength came not from taking credit, but from making sure the job was done right, in the depths of space. New sensors were already turning toward the empty void between galaxies, monitoring for signs of the next ancient threat. And on Earth, the Watchers continued their patient vigil, knowing that somewhere in the vast darkness, something else was probably stirring. When it came, they would be ready for that too.